Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Dolls with Karen. Excuse me a minute, I have actually moved some stuff around over here and it's now in my way. I have to move it a little bit more. Okay, there we go, that's better. We're back with Maddox. He's had his 05 and he's had a bake and he's looking pretty good. My rags are getting stained up with paint. He's looking pretty good. He's ready to get some of the next color, which is warm blush, and here it is right here. All my paints, my table is such a mess. I wish I had another little shelf over here that I could put some paints up on, get it up off the table a little bit so I can move around my stuff a little bit. That's the wrong brush. I need this one. We put on 2 coats of the 05 and baked him, and he's looking pretty good now. These are extra pacifiers. Well, I'm just always having the wrong pacifiers. I take them and use one to put a magnet on a doll, and then it's stuck to their face, and when I go in the bedroom to root their hair, I take it off and lay it down in there, and then I forget where I laid it. And then I come back in here and get another one. And so I have a bunch of them in my room, and I've been collecting them up and bringing them back in here. Anyway, here we go. I'm just laying out a bunch of these sponges that have this color on it so we can dab them around and everything. Okay, we're going to put the warm blush on now. And hopefully, here soon, we're going to get done with him. He's going to be a doozy to put together, I can tell you that. I've put together several dolls in the past that had torsos, and they're very difficult. I have another doll with a torso. It's Harper. I've never done a Harper before. I thought he was a little bitty doll, but it's Max Boy. They have Harper Boy and Angel Girl, and then they have Celeste, and then they have Max. And Max is real little. He's like 16 or 17 inches or something like that. But the rest of them are about this size. And Harper has a slightly different torso. I can tell that it's not the same as the Maggie Maddox torso, but it is still similar. It's difficult to paint torsos. You have to be very, very careful to get this rim around where the leg and arm openings and head is, because if you don't get it, when the body inside is going to shift a little bit as you're moving the doll around, dressing it, and anyway, a lot of people don't want to see that, the body, but you're going to see it. It's just a fact of having a body underneath a torso. The body is not that tight of a fit. And I even put it on a 19-inch body. It calls for a 20-inch body. That's probably why I had so much trouble putting it on, is I used a 19-inch body so it would fit even tighter. But still, you could see the body a little bit around the edges. And it's not an attractive look to me. That's another reason I don't like torsos. It's just not attractive to be able to see that body. And but I guess if you're using belly plates, front plates, and back plates, or like Joseph, 3 months, he's huge. He's way bigger than a 3-month baby. He's more like a 6 or 7 or 8-month baby. But he has a partial torso at the top. And he has to also have a cloth body underneath him. And I imagine you can see his arm, the cloth body sticking out his armholes. And it's just not attractive to have that happening on your doll. But I guess people who use, front and back belly plates are used to seeing the cloth body around it, and it doesn't bother them.
Did you feed her?
Huh? What'd you say?
Did you feed her?
No.
Well, they're uneven.
Well, I didn't feed her. I think you did. I think I remember seeing you do it.
No, I didn't.
Well, I don't know. Maybe she just fed herself. I gotta stop and start pouncing this, because it's so big, it could actually dry before I pounce it. Not only are these difficult to use on the doll, they're also difficult to paint. There's just really nowhere to hold on to these things. I mean, a good place. You can actually hold on to them. They're just...
Where are pillows? Good grief.
These kids are just wailing and screaming out there on the porch.
Not our kids.
They're just so loud. They're 3 and 4, and they just wail and scream all the time. They just fight over the
2 and
toys.
3, not 3 and 4.
She turned 4, and he's turning 3 next month. She already had her birthday, and she turned 4. That's what her mother told me, anyway.
Okay.
And since his birthday's in 1 month, and for all intents and purposes, he's really 3. But anyway, whatever age they are, unless they're 1, they shouldn't be screaming like that. I just didn't let my kids do that. If my kids started that, they was gonna get a spanking. I tell them, stop that screaming.
You let them scream while they're playing outside.
Not like that. Not just screaming for no reason. If it was part of their plan, like, oh, you're gonna get me, I'm gonna run, ah. That's different than just screaming because somebody has a toy you want. I didn't let them do that. I say, you talk, don't scream.
Use your words. That's what a lot of mothers say.
Ask them for what you want. But they just scream at each other, these 2 kids. They're just... And the mother they act like they're oblivious to it. They either don't care or it doesn't bother them or something. She will finally make them go in. I have heard her tell them a couple times to stop screaming, but they don't listen. They just do it. And so sometimes she makes them go in if they're screaming too much, and I don't hear them out there no more, so they must have went in. Okay, when he comes out this time, he'll only have his blush to go, and yay. I'm going to try to root him. I can't decide if he's a blonde or a brunette. And by the time y'all could drop a comment, I'll already have him rooted, because it just takes so long for these videos to upload. My internet is very, very slow, and sometimes the video will fail and you'll have to start over again. Sometimes we're just inexplicably thrown off the internet, and if it takes too long to get back on, well, the video won't upload. It'll fail instead. It'll only wait a certain amount of time, and then it'll just say video failed to upload, and you have to try again. And a lot of times that happens, and I don't know. It's just very, very difficult to get it to upload correctly, and so it looks like it took me days and days and days and days to make one doll, but it really just didn't. That's another reason why I don't record every single doll I make. It just takes too long to upload them. And while I'm trying to get Maddox uploaded, I can have another whole doll finished. And I can't really record while I'm uploading. It messes with the uploading. For some reason, I don't know. I don't truly understand all this stuff. At one time I had an editor and he did all that for me, but he was a high school student and he graduated and went on to do big and better things, and I lost my editor. So he was real good though. He knew how to do everything. Like he could add pictures to your video. I don't know how to do that. If I'm making a video, I just have to do just a video because I don't know how to edit it to make something pop up on the screen. Like he could do that, like a link. He'd make a link pop up on the screen and stuff like that. I don't know how to do all that, so I just put the link in the description usually, and I tell people, oh, the link's down in the description, and that works for me usually. We're going to try 2 coats of this color too. On the dolls that I have skipped one of the coats of one of the colors, they've come out kind of pale, and I don't really like the paleness of them. I mean, they're okay. They're not too pale. They're just too pale for me. I like darker dolls. They look better to me. I'm not talking about dark where they look like they're some other ethnicity than what you intended. I just mean they're not light pale. You know, people who use the 08 or the baby skin, their dolls are kind of pale too. But that's what they're looking for. So, you know, it's perfectly okay, but it's just not what I'm looking for. And so I use darker paints, and they're mixed kind of thin, because if you try to make your paint too dark, it's going to look chalky and bad on your doll. So I put 2 coats of thinner paint. I think it looks better. So that's what I do. And I like them to be a little bit darker than the palest color you can get. And so I feel the need to put 2 coats on. I'm glad I don't do very many torso dolls. It takes longer to bake them too, because you can't get the whole thing in there. Well, now when I was baking in a regular oven, you could just put 2 pans in there at the same time, and you could get everything in there. And I want to do that Charlie. He's a Bountiful Baby has this kit called Charlie, and he's like a toddler. I think he's supposed to be 16 months old, but he looks like a 3-year-old to me. I haven't seen how tall he really is when he's standing up or anything, but he has an armature, and if you don't know what that is, it's just a hard metal thing that goes inside of his body where you can pose him and have him stand up. It'll give his leg strength where he'll stand up, and you don't have to put it in, but I mean, you know, most people would, I think. I want to do him real bad, but there's 2 problems with it. Well, there's actually 3. I just thought of another one. One is, I don't know how I would bake him. He is big. I don't know if even one of his legs would even fit in or one of his arms would even fit in my oven. And I'm pretty sure his head would fit. Just his head by itself would just fit right in. And then the second one is, where am I going to store a doll that big while I'm trying to sell it? It's just big. And the third thing is, what if he doesn't sell and I end up stuck with him? I don't want a doll that big. And so, you know, these are questions you have to consider before you start making dolls that you can't really fit in your house. I'd love to make him. He looks super cute. And I tend to be a heavy rooter, and so him being big, the prototype has kind of long hair for a 16-month-old, I thought. But I could root him good. I'd just be perfect on rooting him, because I'm a heavy rooter, and I guess I tend to root a little too much hair for newborns. I don't give my babies that tiny little almost bald look where their hair is just very, very, very thin. Like, probably I should, but I don't do that because I just feel like, oh, it just looks wrong with that area so bare. So I just fill it in. I'll start doing it like that, and then I'll go, no, I can't like that. And so I fill it all the way in and give them a head full of hair. And most newborns don't have a head full of hair. Every now and then one's born like that. But anyway, long story short, I'd love to do that doll. I mean, if he was a custom or something, you know, I would do him in a heartbeat. But I'd have to know he was already sold. I don't have any room for a doll that big in my house. But anyway, them's the breaks. I think he's 34 or 35 inches tall, which is like, to me, that's the size of a 3-year-old. And I don't know how you'd mail him to somebody either after you finish him. That seems like it would be really, really hard to get a box big enough to put him in. And what in the heck would the postage be? A lot. I'd just as soon avoid all those problems. That's why I haven't made him. And he's on a good sale. For $99, you get the kit, the body, the armature. You get it all. You don't have to order anything separate. And he's on sale right now for $99, and I would love to have it. But no can do. If I was actually going to make him, I'd probably make an exception. I know you're not supposed to do this, but I'd just bake him in the regular oven probably, because he would fit in there. And I just don't think he would fit it. Now, if I could get him in the New Wave oven, I'd do him in there, but I just don't. Or possibly he's a candidate for air dry paint. I don't know. I haven't even gotten my air dry paints yet. I still have to order them. I'm still waiting for my Social Security check to hit the bank about another week. And when it does, I'm going to order my paints. And I don't know how long it'll take them to get here. Hopefully quick. And I'm going to select a doll. I don't know which one yet. I know it comes with some kind of primer that you put on the doll. I think it came with 2 or 3 different mediums. I don't know what they are really. I have to go back and look. I don't remember. I think one of them's a primer that you put on the doll first instead of, I put sealer on my dolls to prime them. But this one would have like its own kind of primer. And I remember reading on the website that you had to use that primer or else the paint would not stick well and you'd have problems down the road. And so, well, okay, no problem with me. I don't mind. And hopefully it comes with enough instructions that I can actually do it. That's what I'm hoping. Like, for example, if you need to wait 24 hours after you put the primer on for it to fully cure, I need to know that. Because I don't want to make a mistake with this paint. I feel like the other paint I was using, I was making mistakes and I didn't even know what they were. And also, I don't know, maybe they were inferior to this waterborne. I have high hopes for this waterborne. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know how easy it's going to be to use. I don't know if I'm going to like the colors. I don't know anything until I get it. And the starter kit's not expensive, so I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to try it out. And I'm hoping for the best. Okay, that's him painted one time. We're going to try to put a little heat on his torso here and get it a little bit drier so I can go on and paint it again. It looks a little shiny to me. Shiny usually means wet with heat set paint. And it's possible to get a shiny doll with heat set too, because, well, too much paint or too hot of an oven or baking them for too long of a lengthy time, all these things can cause shine with heat set paint. But usually the matte varnish will take care of it. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to do this for a couple minutes just to get the torso a little drier. I think by the time I repaint the torso, the arms and legs and head will be dry enough. It's important when you're using your heat gun. It takes a minute to get the vinyl hot, but it's important not to leave it in the same spot too long because it could actually burn the doll or melt the doll. So you can touch it and see how hot it's getting. And if it feels really, really hot to your hands, my suggestion is move it to another spot. We're looking to make it look less shiny, and when you touch it, it feels powdery almost. And that means it's dry. I love the undertones on his torso. They look really good. That should be enough. The torso's kind of big, so it takes a little longer to heat that up than it does, say, the arms and legs or something. By the time I get finished doing this torso, the arms and legs should be dry enough to go on and do them again. And by the time I do them, well, the head should be dry enough too. Putting paint on the red parts that you already painted will help to, if your red's a little too stark or whatever, it'll tone it down just a little. So you don't have to worry about if it's just a tiny bit too dark. You know, if it's way too dark, then you have a problem. You need to neutralize or something. But like, you know, we have to repaint the lips and nails a lot of times because, well, the paint was just muting it a little bit. The paint that went over the top of it. Usually it doesn't affect it all that much, but sometimes it will mute it somewhat to a lighter color that you don't really want. And so we just go over it a second time. But I'm not going over his little private parts because they are dark enough. Maybe too dark, I'm not sure. I don't think they're too dark. They're just on the edge, I think, of being too dark. I don't know if people expect to see the private parts in a photograph or not, but most websites won't let you do that. They'll flag you for indecency or something, and so people put a little butterfly over it or a little star or something to cover up the actual private part. So I guess I'll do that too. I did actually post it one time. It was on Macari though, and they said, "Oh, we've took down your post because it violates our ethical standards," or something like that. I don't really remember the way they worded it, but it was something to do with that. And I thought, well, that's just, isn't that rich? It's baby stuff anyway, and it's, you know, is it not necessary to show the whole doll? I don't know. But they didn't like it, and they took it down, so I had to post it again with the censorship, you know. And I don't know. So I guess I'll do that again. I mean, I don't think YouTube has any rules about something being indecent in painting a doll. I mean, I hope not. Because, I mean, we're all adults here. I've flagged my videos as not acceptable for children because kids don't paint dolls anyway. And I just don't think they would be interested in these kind of videos anyway. And then something like this might be inappropriate for them. I don't know what they consider inappropriate anymore. The world's gotten so weird these days. I just can't even decide what is considered acceptable anymore. You know, people used to take pictures of their little babies in the bathtub and stuff, and it was perfectly fine, even if everything showed. And nobody ever said anything. But now, if you did that, they'd probably flag you for child pornography or something. I don't know. People used to lay their babies on their stomach and take naked pictures of them when they were first born. I did it to my babies. It was just a traditional thing that people used to do. And now it's probably unacceptable. I don't know. If you see a little baby's butt, I don't know what the big deal is. I mean, you're not really exploiting your child. Usually when they're turned on their stomach, you can't even see their face, so nobody would even know what child it was, and it's just their little butt. And I don't know. It's just weird. The world's going to a weird place now, it seems like. Innocent little things like that parents do are considered wrong. Yeah, the arms and legs are completely dry. They feel powdery. That's how they're supposed to feel when they're dry. That's a good feel for repainting. was thinking just earlier today, when was it that I started painting dolls anyway? I know that I moved out from my son's house. Well, okay, long story. Uh, in 2016, my house burned down. We weren't home. And we live way out in the country, so we don't have very many neighbors. So it took a long time for any neighbors to see that the house was on fire. So one of them called the fire department, and they came out and they tried every way they could to put out the fire. But it seemed they didn't have a truck that could pump the water fast enough. The fire marshal was at the house, and he told me right then, well, I got a call from my son. He said, I just got a call from one of my friends that your house is on fire. I don't believe him, but I'm going over there to check it. I was at the movies with my granddaughter. She was just a little girl then. It was 2016. And she was like 7 or I don't know. Anyway, I said, well, call me right back. I'm just going to be very nervous until you call me back. Well, he finally got over there and he called me back and he said, it's sure enough on fire. You better come home. And I raced home, and it was just blazing. I mean, you couldn't see a part of the house that wasn't covered in flames. You just couldn't see it. I don't know how long it'd been on fire, but it was on fire. And the fire marshal was already there. And he said, he came over and talked to me, and he said, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to save your house. I said, are you kidding me? And he said, no, I'm not kidding you. There are no fire hydrants out in the country? Really? Do tell. I mean, why not? They just don't put them out in the country. At least in Tennessee, they don't. Anyway, and he said, the fire truck has a big, huge hose. But with the water pressure that comes out of a fire truck is nothing like the water pressure that would come out of a fire hydrant. Really and truly, the fire hoses are meant to be hooked up to a fire hydrant. And it would come out in a huge big blast, and it would just drown out the fire. But because we're having to use a fire truck, it's going to come out like a water hose, a little better than a water hose. It'd be like trying to put this house out with a water hose. That's what he said. And they tried this other thing where they built this reservoir, and they actually built it right in the yard. Yeah, it seems like they don't have time for that, but evidently it just inflates. And they dumped the water in there, but they were having to take 5 or 6 fire trucks at one time and go to the nearest city, which was Henning, and get water and come back with it and dump it in the reservoir, which was going to give them higher water pressure. But yet it was taking too long, and the house did burn all the way to the ground. Long story. Anyway, after that, I stayed a few days at a hotel. And then my son came to the hotel, and he said, oh, you know, we want you to come live with us, and we'll be so happy to have, oh, I couldn't stand it. He has too many kids. Anyway, my other son found a trailer for us to inhabit while we were waiting for our, you know, the insurance took about 6 months to even pay out. They had to do a fire investigation to make sure it wasn't arson, which it wasn't. But they had to, you know, investigate. Anyway, when they finally paid out, we were living in this trailer, and I didn't like it. It was a friend of his, their mother owned the trailer, and we stayed there several months. I don't know how long, but anyway, that was in 2016 and early 2017. So about mid-2017, I decided I couldn't take trailer living anymore. And so I moved out into an apartment in this complex that I'm in now, but it was a 1-bedroom apartment. That was 2017. And it was February, I think. I don't know. March, I don't know. Anyway, that's when I first started collecting dolls. Was 2018. I just felt very lonely. I was living there by myself, and I had never really lived by myself before. And I mean completely by myself. And I was very, very lonely. And I was just scrolling, you know, I scrolled through YouTube and Facebook and, you know. Anyway, I came across, you know, you start watching videos, and as you're watching videos on YouTube, they're suggesting a new video every time it ends. And they change a little bit over a few videos, slightly from what you're watching to something else. And I did it for hours a day because I was so bored. And I was already not working. But anyway, it finally changed where this one video came up of a box opening of a reborn doll. And that's the first time I ever heard or saw a reborn doll. And I thought, oh, aren't they cute? I want one. And so I started looking on eBay and stuff at reborn dolls. And I found some reborn dolls. I already explained one time how I picked my reborn dolls. And anyway, I bought a few reborn dolls. And then I met up with this lady that I liked the dolls that she was posting. And I was buying them. And she was only asking $139, which I thought was an excellent price at the time. And so I bought several of her dolls, and then I asked her would she be willing to make dolls for me, just whatever doll I wanted. And she said, sure, I'll do that. And I said, will you do it for the $139? She said, absolutely. So I had her start making dolls for me. And anyway, long story short, about the time I moved out of the 1-bedroom apartment and I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment because my sister came to stay with me. And her and her husband were divorcing, and well, she needed a place to stay and I needed a roommate. So she moved in with me and we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. About that time I was getting the idea that maybe I could make my own dolls. That was 2018. So that's how I figured it up. It was 2018 when I started making my own dolls. And then, 2019 was when COVID hit. And yeah, I got COVID. And I got real sick, and oh man, I actually thought I was gonna die. I was so sick. But it's just a feeling. I wasn't actually dying. It's just so much worse than the flu. It was like a heavy, horrible, worst flu you ever had flu. And the surprising thing is I'd already had 2 COVID shots that I wish I had never gotten because they didn't do me any good. And I never got the 3rd one. You're supposed to get 3 within a certain amount of time apart. And I never got the 3rd one because, well, I got COVID right in the middle of getting it. And so much time passed before I could actually get another shot that it was, I was right on the cusp of being able to get my 3rd shot. I think you had to wait 6 months for that 3rd shot. And I was right almost there. And then I got COVID. And then I had, I guess what you'd call long COVID. I don't know if it's really qualifies for long COVID or not, but I don't know what long COVID is. So what happened is I got COVID. I was super sick. And it developed into COVID pneumonia after I was just about to get a little better. I was starting to feel a little better, like I was on the mend. And all of a sudden, my lungs were hurting so bad I couldn't stand it. I went to the emergency room and they did an x-ray and they said, well, it looks like you might have pneumonia, but we don't really think you do. And I thought, well, okay. And then a couple days later, I was going to my doctor saying, look, something's bad wrong. And she took an x-ray and she said, oh yeah, you have pneumonia. So, okay. Before that, I skipped over part of it. Before that, I got bronchitis. I got COVID bronchitis. And right about the time I was getting over the COVID bronchitis, that's when the COVID pneumonia hit. I was sick for more than a month because it took a week and a half to 2 weeks for each one of those to get better. I guess because of my age, I don't know. One of my husband's sisters got COVID right on the first go-around of COVID when, the first variant there was. And she nearly died. They finally gave her those transfusions from another person who had already beat COVID. Infusions, I think they call them. They're not transfusions. But anyway, right after she got that, she started getting better within a couple days. And in like 5 more days, she was home from the hospital. She was in the hospital in Jackson, which they have a much better hospital in Jackson than they do here. Ripley doesn't even count for a hospital. The Lauderdale County Hospital doesn't even really count. It's more like a first aid center. It's where you go where they're going to decide where they're going to send you to a real hospital. Anyway, she got sent to Jackson because I don't know, they have a very good hospital in Jackson, and it's not even as big as Memphis. My grandson was born by C-section, and he breathed in some of the amniotic fluid, and he was at a Memphis hospital, and you would think they would keep him there, but no, they airlifted him to Jackson, to the NICU up there, because it's a better NICU. And he had to be in the NICU for like 2 weeks because he couldn't suck a bottle or anything, because he was fighting for every breath. They had to put a respirator on him to help push the fluid out of his lungs, and it was an ordeal, let me tell you. But he got through it, and he's 18 now. My precious little baby grandson. He's my youngest natural grandchild. I have some steps. But anyway, that's him painted twice. I'm going to check him for other things that might need to be touched up before we put him in the oven. And then we're going to get him in the oven and get him a bake. And then he'll only have that one coat left, which will be, well, it'll be 2 coats of red. Because I'm just not satisfied with the dolls that I only did 1 coat on. They just don't look normal to me. I don't know what's wrong with it. Well, his torso's fine, I know that. I'm going to check his nails. Also fine. That one is anyway. He's got a hair on his arm, but not to worry, it'll fall right off. That one looks okay. Okay. And okay. Let me check his lips. And I don't like to have to do anything more on the last step. His lips look good too. I don't want to come back and put on blush and then have to redo the lips and all that. I just want to put on the blush and be done. So that's why I check him real good before he goes in for his bake on this step. Because next step, we have to tip his nails. That's the only thing I do besides just paint them all over, is tip their nails. So he's ready to go in the oven. And before we go, I want to talk a little more about the contest. When Maddox is finished, I'm going to have my questions ready. I'm going to go in the bedroom and think about them and write down about 20, 25 questions. I don't know. And then I'm going to put in the link in the video that I make announcing the contest and telling about the rules and stuff. I'm going to put a link there to my Facebook page where you can message me through Messenger and give me the answers, because I don't want any copying. And everything will be laid out in that video, what you have to do to be entered. And well, anybody that answers questions and does the things I say are going to be entered. But the winner will be the person who, I see something on his belly button I want to get off. It looks like some paint got trapped in there. The person that answers the most correct questions will be the one who wins. And I'll show you the doll that I've chosen to give away. And it will come in a cute outfit. And it will come with, possibly, if I can find any extras, some extras in the box. I don't really know what, depending on what will fit in the box. So the winner will be needing to give up their address and stuff so I can mail the doll to. And anyway, that's what's going to happen. So anyway, please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and come back and see Maddox's last segment. And happy reborning.